thoughts. As a veteran in this industry, where do you think things are going? And do you think there's light at the end of the tunnel, or is it pretty grim and dark?
I don't think it's grim and dark, but I think we need to remember. So, I mean, I come from two perspectives. I understand the regulation, and I advise. Well, I'm a compliance head in our company, but we need to remember that laws aren't always correct. If we look at, I mean, I look at my own history and my own father having laid down his life for fighting the apartheid regime, and that. We need to, I mean, it's not as drastic as that, but we need to remember that regulation isn't always right. And regulators are trying to do something to protect consumers, but consumers are the ones that are affected somewhat in the end. You are affected in terms of how you want to go about doing things on an everyday basis. I watched the Unbankable movie yesterday. I don't know if any of you watched that. And I mean, there's, for instance, groups of ladies in Canada that are trying to provide something for their community, and are essentially, one of the biggest barriers they're finding is that they're actually operating illegally in some respect. And I think that's what we're finding ourselves in. So I think from an everyday person perspective, understand there is this regulation, and that you might find yourself wanting to do something that you're passionate about in this space, in this Bitcoin space, and maybe hampered doing so by regulation. That is essentially trying to protect you, but who knows if it's good for you or not, you know? And I think that's what you need to remember. So I think that's one of the closing remarks that I want to make. Law is good, but the thing is, one of the first principles I learned studying law was that you only put in place regulation when you can't self-regulate, right? And I think we haven't even been given the chance to even start self-regulating. And I think the crypto industry and Bitcoin itself, I think, has been known to actually regulate quite well before we had any regulation. And we weren't even given a chance to actually self-regulate and see how we find our own feet in this. And now we've had regulators pushed by international voluntary bodies sitting in Paris, by the way, not in the cloud, but that are telling our regulators what to do so that we can become part of a global community. So, you know, it's give and take. There's good and bad, but I think ultimately the people will have to talk.